So welcome, thank you so much for being here, and feel free to go ahead and get started.
Great, thanks so much, Anna.
Thanks, Anna. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I put links to our slides here in the chat in case you'd like to access them that way. Can y'all see this?
Yes, we can.
Great.
Okay, I was looking to check to make sure that the chat had the link in it, but I don't see it. Maybe it's above our talk. Oh yes, it's above the announcement of the talk. Okay, all right, I guess we're all ready then. So hi everybody, I'm Lynn Cominsky. I'm from Sonoma State University. I'm a 68-year-old white woman that wears glasses, and I have sort of short brown hair and a gray multi-pattern top on, and I'm in front of our background, which has our beautiful N3 logo that was designed by Aurora Simonette, who's an artist on my staff at Sonoma State. So I'm a professor of physics and astronomy, and I'm also the director of a group of people called EdEon STEM Learning. EdEon is like education forever, education through the eons. And I was inspired to write the proposal to NASA that became the N3 project by experiences I've had with autistic physics majors at Sonoma State. And in particular, one student named Alex, who's now in physics graduate school, and who I worked with for more than 5 years, from when he first started in the junior college system to when he came to Sonoma State as a physics major. And I'm hoping that I transformed his life as much as he transformed my life, because this project really means a lot to me and to all of the people that have been involved so far. When I was looking to form the team to write the proposal, I found similarly like-minded people at the Education Development Center, and that's where Ariana is. And so I'll let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariana Riccio. I'm a developmental psychologist, and I work at Education Development Center. I'm a white woman in my early 30s with dark brown hair. I'm wearing a gray top, and I just have a blurred neutral background behind me. And yeah, Lynn really had the idea for this project, but she brought in myself and my colleague Wendy Martin at EDC, because we've done a number of different types of STEM projects that involve co-design and co-developing resources with autistic young people from middle school all the way to college. So we'll talk a bit more about that as we get into our talk today.
And it's great for me to have Ariana and the EDC folks, especially Wendy Martin, on our team, because they are really experts in working with people on the autism spectrum. And I'm really an astronomer, so that just, wants to help this particular population. So other people that are involved in the project are the other co-investigators, Laura Pedicolis, who's at Sonoma State, and Sylvia Perez, who's at New York Hall of Science. So one of the things we're also going to do, but what we won't have time to talk about too much today, is the work with the museum people to develop experiences and summer camps and workshops for audiences that are mixtures of neurotypical and neurodiverse students. And that group at NYSCI has a lot of experience in that. Other people who have really helped us on the project include Naomi Hoopert from EDC, Georgette Williams from NYSCI, Dr. Brian Mendez from UC Berkeley, and then we have official evaluators from WestEd, Andrew Grillo-Hill and Joshua Valcarcel. So we'll go on to the next slide. So besides the link that Ariana put in the chat, you can download the slide from the bit.ly link. And then we have the Jamboard that's available if anybody would like to share questions or thoughts. I'm not sure how we're going to see both the Jamboard and the slides at the same time, but
I didn't realize we'd have this cool Q&A feature on the presentation Zoom, so we can use that for questions as well.
Okay, so that's probably easier for us to keep an eye on. Yep. But if you need additional accommodations, please send a private chat to Ariana or raise your hand. Okay. We'll try to monitor the chat through the presentation, but please do put things in the Q&A or the Jamboard. So A key tenet in the design of the N3 program, and I should say that N3 stands for NASA's Neurodiversity Network, is that there should be nothing for us or about us without us. And so we have tried very hard to include autistic people in the development of the supports and the resources that we are redeveloping that have already existed within the NASA education ecosystem. And so we're looking at those resources with the lens of neurodiversity, trying to ensure that resources that NASA has, even if they already are obeying universal design for learning principles, will be suitable for this very different audience that before the N3 program was not anything that was on NASA's radar screen. And so this is a whole new area for NASA to get involved with. And we're really happy and proud to be sharing our work through this first pilot year with you in this presentation. The goals of our program for the next 5 years are to provide a pathway to NASA participation and STEM employment for neurodiverse learners with a focus on those on the autism spectrum. This is a segment of the population that's significantly underserved for STEM in general, and in particular, it was just not something that NASA got involved with until we got this program started. And so we're working on scientific literacy issues, but we're really trying to provide authentic NASA experiences for all the people who participate, whether it's through our internship program, whether it's through the NASA resources that we're redeveloping, or whether it's through the museum work. And we'll talk more about the internship program later, but it's a really important part because we're using NASA subject matter experts to mentor our interns. We're also reaching out to organizations like SciAccess and other organizations that want to provide more accessibility for STEM learners and autism-focused organizations to leverage our efforts to try to make a sustainable pathway for these learners so that they can go on to successful STEM careers. We, of course, had to train ourselves because being a bunch of physicists, at least at Sonoma State, this is not something that we really understood that well, other than the handful of examples of my autistic physics students that I've been working with over the past few years. And so we've had professional training for ourselves and for these NASA subject matter experts about neurodivergence and what the best practices are for working with autistic learners. And then again, as I mentioned, we're going to try to be moving these redeveloped NASA resources into informal education programs that can serve additional neurodiverse students through museums, libraries, summer camps, and other informal venues like that.
Great. So I'm going to talk about the first kind of major phase of our project for this year, which was co-design. And we'll talk about two different settings where we've engaged in co-design. The first is a curriculum in schools that we've run with partner high schools. And then we're taking that same curriculum to make it appropriate for museum audiences. So I'll talk about those two different settings. But I'll start by first speaking about what it means to co-design something. And this is an accessibility conference. And I know a lot of you here are working in the disability world, so you may already be familiar with participatory research or participatory co-design. And as Lynn was mentioning earlier, this is really creating resources for the population we want to serve in full partnership with that population. So we are fully including autistic high schoolers. We have some autistic adults on our team that we've consulted with to make sure that their voice and their experiences are reflected in our final product. So here are the partner high schools that we are currently working with in the Northern California area. And that's where Lynn is located in Sonoma County. So these, we have 4 high schools here and then one kind of I would call it like a specialty education and job training studio, Autistry Studios, and they all tested out our astronomy from home curriculum in different settings. Some did kind of a special astronomy experience for students who wanted to engage with that material, and some teachers just put it right into their high school curriculum. And all of these teachers kind of signed on and had training sessions with Dr. Brian Mendez before running the curriculum in their school so that they were well prepared to use all the materials that we had for them.
So the initial resources that we targeted for this co-redevelopment or co-design process were based on the experiences that I had with this student, Alex, that I previously mentioned. When he first came to work with me at Sonoma State, he really wanted to get involved with our robotic telescope. And that's a picture of it on the left. It shows a picture of GORT and also the logo from our Astronomy from Home website. And GORT is named after the robot in the Earth Stood Still movie, but it originally stood for Gamma Ray Optical Robotic Telescope. And so the whole remote from home astronomy curriculum was developed with an eye towards using GORT, as well as using NASA's Micro Observatory facility, which is run by folks at the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. And so the students learn about image analysis first using the smaller Micro Observatory robotic telescopes, and then can move up to GORT and take data with a bigger telescope, which means you can see fainter objects. And so this is the pathway that Alex took. The next thing he worked on with me was building model rockets and payloads through a program called Rising Data, which I developed for underrepresented minority community college students. And so besides the rocketry and the payloads, this program also taught how to build and fly drones. I don't think we'll get that far. I think we'll stick with the rockets, but that is the redevelopment project that we're aiming for next year. So this is an image of the Astronomy from Home website homepage, and some of the activities that we involved in this remote astronomy curriculum can be found under the Discover tab, which is on the arc over to the right, and it's got a red arrow pointing to it on this slide. One of the Discover activities is a game that introduces students to how to recognize the light curve signature from an exoplanet that's transiting in front of a companion star. And it's just a fun game to try. I encourage you all to go check it out and play it. It has accessibility options as well. And then another activity is to build a light curve using software called JS9-4L, which stands for learners. It's a slightly more user-friendly version of the JS9 software that's used to analyze images by professional astronomers. And this slide shows the target field and the field that you'll do your analysis in the JS9 program.
Great. So to kind of take these existing resources and work with our students and teachers who got to test them out with the goal of kind of redesigning and rewriting or reworking this curriculum to be more appropriate for autistic learners, we held 11 co-design meetings from a period between June and October of this past year. So as students were finishing the curriculum in their classroom, they started the meetings with us. And those, we typically had 3 to 4 meetings for each school group. Sometimes they overlapped. So it was really fun that students got to meet each other from different schools in the Sonoma or Northern California area. And those students met with myself, my colleague, Wendy Martin. Lynn joined for a number of the meetings, as did Brian Mendez, who designed the original curriculum to be used in high schools. And the funny part about this project is I really have no background in astronomy whatsoever. So it was really critical to have the astronomers on our team and the autism specialists and co-designers on our team all there together. And we did do all of this remotely, mostly due to COVID, but also due to geographic constraints. I'm located in New York City. And we really emphasized the role of student voice in these meetings. We made sure to tell the teachers that we really want to hear first from your students and what their experience was like. And we really had some incredible teachers who are already doing all of these things in their classroom. So it was really great to meet with them over the past summer and fall. So teachers actually were already iterating on the curriculum that Brian had shared with them, and they created worksheets, visuals, they found YouTube videos, and they were already enhancing the curriculum in all the ways that we envisioned this would happen. So they shared all of those materials with us in a Google Drive folder, and we were able to look at all these innovations and talk about what worked, what didn't work, what students felt engaged with, and what we could continue to improve upon. I also implemented a brief little survey at the end of each meeting to make sure that students felt that their voices were being heard. We really wanted to document how the co-design process itself was going with this group, especially because we were doing it all remotely. And we saw some overwhelmingly positive feedback that all of our students felt comfortable sharing their ideas, and they really believed that this process made the activities better than they were before. So how will the curriculum change? We're currently in the process of redesigning this curriculum to be used in schools. Everything we create will be open access and available to the public. So you should follow us on our website there. I also put it in the chat a bit earlier. Some critical feedback was that students and teachers really wanted to highlight the broader context of where these activities could be situated within their learning of astronomy and different concepts. So we're building all of that in to make it a really comprehensive wraparound curriculum. We also kind of noticed our lack of graphics, diagrams, images, and other hands-on activities. So we're emphasizing that as well. Our evaluators were able to conduct an evaluation of the co-design process, and they reached out to instructors and teachers. So they interviewed 5 instructors and 4 students. Everyone really valued the redevelopment process. There were some challenges, such as the lack of training in this area before implementing the curriculum. So we are thinking about ways to have some kind of static training or video system that teachers can watch if they do want to implement this in their classroom. And as I mentioned, we're adding more of a storyline and more hands-on activities to our curriculum. So the next phase of this is co-designing the same activities to be more appropriate in museum settings. So we're hosting co-design meetings in person this January at the New York Hall of Science with 6 to 8 autistic high schoolers. So we started recruiting for that. If anyone's in the New York City area and has a high schooler who might be appropriate, you can reach out to me. We've actually invited some of our interns, which we'll talk about later, to be on this team with us. So we want to make these curriculums appropriate as single drop-in activities you might interact with at a museum, but also for longer programs like summer camps or after schools. So we're going to do one of those, a winter camp during the 5-day February break we have here in New York City for middle schoolers. And if you have a middle schooler you'd like to register, you can send me an email. Okay, so we're making a quick pivot over to talk about our internship program. I'll pass it on to Lynn.
Okay, so we have just completed our first summer internship program. This was a pilot. We didn't really know what to expect. We tried very hard not to advertise it very widely because we didn't want to be overwhelmed with applications before we actually knew how many mentors we have. We're actually funded for 10 internships every summer, and the interns are supposed to work the equivalent of 1 month, 160 hours of full-time work for over 1 month, but spread out over the whole summer, so over 2 months. And of course, you know, COVID. So this past year, all the internships were completed remotely. And when the interns finished their work and their presentations, they got a $1,000 stipend. But where the real fun and challenge, and I think benefit from this program came, was through a very careful matching of NASA subject matter mentors with the individual interns. So we tried for like demographics, we tried for like scientific interests. We couldn't do much about the age because most of the mentors were old, retired people that had the time to take on a project like this. They all have worked for NASA in one form or another. Some people were the heads of NASA divisions at NASA centers like NASA Goddard. Some people were professors. Some people were other people that have worked in my group before, so they're very familiar with NASA education. but we managed to span all the different subject matters within NASA's Science Mission Directorate: astrophysics, astrobiology, earth environmental science, heliophysics, which is the study of the sun and the particle environment around the earth, and of course, planetary science and exploration. Now, next year's internships are going to be opening up on January 7th, 2022 for new applications. And this time we have our rubric set. We know how to deal with the application process. So we are going to advertise this program as widely as possible, aimed at rising high school seniors. So if you're going to be in the summer between your junior and senior year in high school, this program is for you, and we really want you to apply. We welcome all areas of neurodiversity, not just autism. Most people with autism, a lot of them have another kind of neurodiversity as well. So, please apply and tell us about the things at NASA that really interest you as part of that application process.
Great. So a critical component of running the internship program successfully was training our mentors before they got their interns. So most of these mentors were professors themselves. They had mentored many, many people in the past. And it seemed like most of them weren't really sure if they'd mentored anyone with autism or any kind of neurodivergence before this experience. But we had two different trainings for them. One was specifically about autism and working with an autistic teen, and that was hosted by our partners at the NYU ASD Nest project. And that was a really wonderful training. I believe it was over 2 days, and it went over what autism is and isn't, and was a really great intro for all of these mentors. And it gave them a lot of concrete strategies for how to successfully work with an intern, especially remotely, and how to kind of navigate that relationship and that planning process to get all of our interns to a successful final project, which, spoiler, all of them did. And then the second training was hosted by our colleagues at NISI, and it was really about working with high schoolers in general, because a lot of our mentors were a bit older, retired, and kind of unfamiliar with, a lot of them complained that our teenagers weren't great at emailing them back. So how can we engage with our interns and hear about their progress and how they're doing if they won't email me back? So kind of troubleshooting things like that. So our evaluators did an evaluation of that training to make sure everyone found benefit in it. And they definitely did, particularly the training about autism and working with neurodiverse youth. So we'll definitely be doing that in the future. Do we have time to show this video?
Well, it's only 1.5 minutes and we have 6 minutes left. So I think we should try it. Make sure to make the sound work when you start.
Okay, I'm not sure if I shared my sound when I shared my screen. Let's see, can you hear this?
Yes. We won't be able to hear you speaking at the same time, but we can hear the sound coming through when you had that.
Neurodiversity Network, also known as N3, is to provide pathways to NASA employment for learners on the autism spectrum. N3 is a collaboration among scientists, researchers, and program developers. Team members work at Sonoma State University, the Education Development Center, the New York Hall of Science, and WestEd. Working together with autistic youth and their teachers, the team pilot tests and redesigns existing NASA educational activities. The goal is to make the activities engaging for autistic learners in informal and formal education settings. The N3 project also offers summer internships, mentored by NASA subject matter experts. A minimum of 10 autistic teen interns are selected per year. Internships this past summer focused on topics such as analysis of astronomical data, solar flare data, and planet data. Interns also built rockets with payloads and attempted to create a new version of the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's our video, and I think it's important to point out that that was narrated by one of our summer interns. And Jordan himself did a video as his summer project, trying to explain pulsars to younger audiences. He worked with Dr. David Thompson from NASA Goddard, and it was quite a fun video. It wasn't quite finished, but Jordan has made a number of other videos, and so we asked him if he would please be our narrator, because he was actually quite a bit better narrator than any of the rest of us on the team.
Yeah, and it was truly amazing what all of our interns were able to achieve. We held kind of a grand finale presentation in the beginning of September, where all 16 of our interns presented their final projects to the entire group of mentors, interns, and N3 staff members. And it was a really great celebration. I mean, it was all over my head, but it was really wonderful. And a lot of them are continuing to work on those projects and continuing to work with the mentors that they were matched with as they advance in high school or get ready for college.
And you can watch the presentations from the individual interns at the link that I just put on the chat, n3.sonoma.edu/internships. We have little bios for all of the interns and subject matter experts that gave us permission to feature them in social media and regular old media. And so they're little bios, and there are also the Zoom captures from the final presentations and the introductions by the mentors.
Oops, sorry about that. And like all of the parts of this project, our internship program was evaluated by our partners at WestEd, and they were able to interview 6 subject matter experts, 7 interns, and 6 parents. And everyone really talked about what a positive experience they had. Students reported learning new technical skills, new softwares, and developing their presentation skills, which I think is really critical and a really great part of that final project session that we held. Interns did request kind of more hands-on resources and more meetings with their mentors and a bit more information about what's coming next. So we're really going to take that recommendation to heart. And I believe we will continue doing the internships virtually because it really opens up the possibility for partnerships. So definitely things will be changing for the future. And mentors recommended one-on-one meetings with us, the program staff, and more ways to share their experiences with other mentors. So we really do want to foster more connectedness across the program as we move forward. All right, so coming to the end of our presentation here, we mentioned the internship application for next year will open on January 7th, and it will close 2 months later on March 7th. So if you're interested or know someone who might be, I encourage you to share that link with them. We have the link to our astronomy from home activities there as well. If you want to try those out on your own, there's a lot of games and different things you can play with to learn more. And as we develop all of these new activities over the next 5 years, this program runs, we're going to be putting them on our website. So just check in periodically.
And we'll try to do social media when we post something new as well. But we look forward to hearing from you. And if you have any questions about the program, I've been answering a couple of them through the Q&A. The latest one, I guess I can answer live, which is what sites do you suggest for general information about autism? If you go to the resources part of the N3 website, we have a whole list of autism and STEM type resources that I've personally found very handy. Also reading the book Neurotribes, which is one of the main things I started with, which was very interesting to me about just the history of autism and words used to describe autism throughout, the past 50 years or whatever, as well as information about medical diagnoses. So with that, I think we're out of time. So we will conclude, and feel free to write to either Ariana or myself if you have any more questions about our program.